Hi again, year 10. This is week 2 and lesson 3 of, so the final in the series of your lessons for week 2. The topic is means di tutto, as you know, and we've been looking at facilities and opinions, good things, bad things about your school, that sort of thing. And what we're looking at today is moving on to the final of the objectives, which we haven't really done in a lot of detail, which is be able to use the imperfect tense to talk about your primary school. So can you please have a look at these following questions and then use your exercise book and verb tables as needed. I need you to answer them in full, please. What's the imperfect tense used for? How is it formed? Are there any irregular imperfect verbs? Now, you should be able to do this quickly. I don't want you to spend, we're going to be doing some more work on the tense, but can you please answer these as well as you can in your exercise books now? Check back on your verb tables if you need to. Pause the video. When you've done the work, resume it. Okay, so you should have the imperfect tense. What's it used for? It's used to talk about the past in 3 situations. RA, repeated actions in the past, so things that you did on a regular basis in the past. So when I lived in Madrid, every day I bought bread from the bakers. Every Saturday I visited the Retiro Park in Madrid. I did it on a repeated basis. BD, background description. Excuse me. Now, if you're using the preterite tense, you can talk about events very easily. To give background description, you need the imperfect tense. So the train was full, the man was tall, the weather was wonderful. And then the third situation where you use the imperfect tense is when it's what you used to do. So I used to like reading books. Now I prefer audiobooks. I used to like going to the cinema. Now I prefer Netflix. Okay. When it's used to in English, it will always be the imperfect in Spanish. Next question was, what are the endings? How do you form it? So this is just a very brief description. You've got this in your verb tables. You're going to do more work on it in a moment. But for AR verbs, generally speaking, the endings are aba, abas, aba, abamos, abais, aban. And those are added to the stem. So you take the stem, sorry, you take the infinitive, hablar, for example. Step 1, find the infinitive. Step 2, take the ending off. So that leaves you HABL, which is the stem. And for the imperfect, you add aba, abas, aba, and so on. So I used to speak would be hablaba. For an ER and IR verb, there's only one set of endings, which is great, is you only have to learn one. What you add to the stem in this case is ia, ias, ia, iamos, iais, ian. There's a spelling mistake there. I'm so sorry. It shouldn't be es. That S is obviously in the wrong place. It's eis. I'll check that. Hold on a second. I'm going to change it now. So that should be spelled like that. Let's just put it back and do that again. So for AR verbs, there are your AR endings. ER and IR verbs, ia, ias, ia, iamos, iais, ian. Okay, so they go onto the stem. So I used to eat meat, but now I'm a vegetarian. We comía carne. And the last one was, were there any irregular ones? And yes, there are. Ir, ser, and ver are all irregular in the imperfect tense. And you need to recognize those because you're going to be using those. I used to go to my primary school. It used to be, my sister used to be nice, but now we argue all the time. I used to watch films on TV. You're going to need to know those in the imperfect, so you need to know the endings. Right. Pause for a second while you write that down. When you've written it down, resume the video. Okay, so assuming you've resumed, and what I want you to do now is to really drill down further into the imperfect tense. So here are the objectives which we've been looking at all week. We're looking at imperfect now. So there is a link in your Google Classroom for a GCSE bite-sized video on the imperfect tense. And I want you to work through that, completing all the activities, revise, do the video, test yourself, post a picture, please, of the mark you get in the test. Here is the link here, which you can copy it if you want to, or you can go to Google Classroom and then click copy and paste into your browser. Work through all those sections, please. Pause the video now while you go away and do that. Come back after you've done it. Okay, so assuming you've done that, you've sent me a picture of the mark you got in your test. You are now going to do a translation into Spanish. Okay, now this gives you the opportunity to use the present tense. I have, can be, is, where I have, and those sorts of things. That's all present tense. We've got the imperfect. And the third paragraph there, talking about your primary school was much smaller, the teachers were more patient. And then you've also got a conditional to use at the end. But this will take you some time, so you need to give yourself about 20 minutes probably for this translation. When you have done it, then you're going to do the correction, which we'll do in a second. So pause the video, please, work through the translation, and when you're ready, resume the video. Okay, so we're going to correct this section by section. Now there are 6 sections here because the mark scheme, which you've already seen, I know, gives you marks out of 6 for the key messages. So I'm going to say, look carefully. Excuse me. If you need to get the whole section right to get the mark here. So it's not quite as it would be in the exam, but I'm just doing it this way because it makes it easier. So, en general, lo paso bien al instituto, aunque a veces el trabajo es difícil o tengo demasiados deberes. Now, there are quite a few tricky bits in this. In general, I have a good time at school. So, do you remember the verb pasarlo bien? You conjugate it by using pasar, which is a regular AR verb. The lo you put in front, and then you put after it an adverb. So if you have a good time, lo paso bien. If you have an amazing time, lo paso fenomenal. If you have a terrible time, it might be lo paso fatal. Or lo paso mal is have a bad time. So I have a good time at school, lo paso bien al instituto, although at times the work is difficult or I have too much homework. Now, too much and too many in English is used for, too much is a singular noun, too much food, too much money, too much work. Too many is used with plural nouns, too many cats, too many, I don't know, too many hamburgers. The same thing happens in Spanish. So you need to check here. You've got deberes, is plural in Spanish. And it's masculine, so it's demasiados. If you had too many, something that's feminine, so too many rulers, it would be demasiadas reglas. Similarly, if that were singular, so too much work, trabajo is singular and masculine, so it's work, it would be demasiado trabajo. If you had too much food and you couldn't eat it all, la comida is singular and feminine, so it would be demasiada comida. So remember, demasiado, demasiada, demasiados, demasiadas. And then you need to make those agree with what you're describing. Too much or too many. Okay, next section. Algunos de los profesores pueden ser muy estrictos también. Some of the teachers can be very strict as well. So you've got another few traps here. Algunos, that's some of. Now that's, if you have some teacher, and it was singular, it would be algún profesor. Here you got some, and it's more than one of the teachers, so it would be algunos profesores. If it were feminine, so some teacher at my primary school was really nasty, and it was a she, it would be alguna profesora. Algún profesor, alguna profesora, algunos profesores, or algunas profesoras if they're all female. So again, you need to be careful with that, make it agree. Can be, so it's they can be. Pueden ser muy estrictos, from the verb poder, which is stem changing. So I can, puedo, you can, puedes, they can, pueden. And because this is a modal verb, a verb that's working with another verb, I can be, I can read, they can eat. It has to be followed by another verb. You can't just I can, it has to be another verb after it. So the second verb needs to be the infinitive. So they can, pueden ser, they can be. Very strict also. Okay, so what's Weydon like? Weydon es un instituto moderno con unas instalaciones increíbles. It's a modern school with some amazing or some incredible facilities. Con unas instalaciones increíbles. Y creo que lo mejor es la sala o el aula de arte donde tengo mi asignatura favorita. So it's a modern school with amazing facilities. And I think that lo mejor es, the best is. So lo bueno es, we saw that before, is the good thing. Lo bueno de mi instituto es. Lo bueno es la piscina. The good thing is the food. The good thing is the sports facilities. But if it's the best, then it's lo mejor. Remember, it's best is mejor. And I've given you a different, you can have alternatives here. La sala is the room. El aula is also the room in terms of classrooms. Now, aula, we saw earlier, aula is feminine. So aulas modernas, modern classrooms. But when you're saying the word aula, if you put a la in front of it, you end up with something as la aula. It's very difficult having the two A's together. So you need it's changed in Spanish to be el aula. It's a bit like when you want to say, do you want an egg? You wouldn't say an egg, you say an egg, because you can't say followed by the E, so a egg. It's the same thing in Spanish for here, la aula, so it becomes el aula. So the best thing is the art room where I have my favorite subject, donde tengo mi asignatura favorita. Okay, now this is much longer than it would normally be in a translation for one section, but I put it all together here just for today. So my primary school was much smaller. Mi escuela de primaria era mucho más pequeña. Era, from ser in the imperfect. Es, it is. Era, it was. That's one of the irregular ones, remember? Creo que los profesores eran más pacientes. I think the teachers were more patient. Eran. Son, they are. Eran, they were. Pero tengo amigos mejores aquí. I got better friends here. So los amigos mejores, better friends. Y finalmente, en el futuro me gustaría continuar o seguir con arte y también ciencias al colegio y quizás a la universidad. So in the future, I would like, so that's your conditional tense. It needs to come, it's followed by an infinitive, continuar, or you could have seguir. They both mean carry on or continue. In the future, I'd like to continue or carry on with con arte y también ciencias al colegio y quizás a la universidad. So in the future, I would like to carry on with art and also science at college and maybe, perhaps, at university. Quizás, nice word there to learn from maybe or perhaps. Okay, now, obviously you can pause, you can go back. What I want you to do now is give yourself a mark out of 6 for conveying key messages, and 6 for grammatical knowledge. Now, you need to do 2 things here. You can go back and look at the translation in a second just by rewinding the video. I want you to check and correct your work, please, using a red pen. So underline if you've missed bits out, indicate that. If you've misspelt things, then correct your work. Once you've done that, then you need to write the correct translation in full, please, and in red. Okay, we've been doing lots of this last term, so you know how to do this. Please put dirt, redraft, translation, write it in full, in red, and set yourself a target. So look at what you didn't get. I mean, give yourself a pat on the back for what you did get, but then look at things that you struggled with. Did you not know, for example, it was demasiados deberes? Did you not know a veces? Did you not know pueden ser? Did you get your adjective agreement wrong here with estrictos or mucho más pequeña? All right, so look at what you didn't, what you struggled with, what you found a challenge, where there's a gap in your knowledge, please. Write it out in full, in complete full in red pen, and then set a target based on where you can identify your problem, your challenges, the bits that you struggle with. Set yourself a target, please. Once you've done that, I need to see a picture of that, please, on Google Classroom, submitted at the end of lesson 3. There will be home learning as well, posted on Google Classroom, which you need to make a note of during lesson 3 and make sure that that's ready for next week when we will be correcting it. Thank you very much indeed for all your work this week, Year 10. I'm just going to double check to see. There we are. Set yourself a target for improvement. Post a picture of your work on Google Classroom. And there were the learning objectives, which we have done. We didn't actually write a paragraph. What you've done is do a translation. But other than that, we've met the targets that we set ourselves at the beginning of the week. And thank you very much indeed for all your hard work. Adios.